What's good, everybody? Hope you are having a wonderful week so far. Podcast, welcome to the Will Clarke podcast. If you are new to this, thank you for listening. Please subscribe. Please give us a review. Please share it with your friends. If you're a long-time listener and you don't subscribe, please do. It means the world. It just keeps the guests coming. Podcast time. This is the second time I've had these boys on, Walker Royce. I love them. They're good friends of mine. They make amazing music. They have just released a new album called No Big Deal. It's amazing. These guys are some of my favorite human beings in this industry. They are doing amazing things in America and just make great music, and they're good people. I love them to bits. So without further ado, Walker Royce. Sam.
Yo.
Gavin. We're live.
How's it? We are live.
Second time round.
Yeah, this is the second time. We did. I think we did a 2021 though, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. You were one of the first.
Okay.
When was it?
It was 2020 because I remember.
Did we?
It's like one thing. That's like for some reason that's like that is the only thing I remember from that year.
Like a black hole of.
You were number 29.
Okay.
On the podcast.
When did you start it?
At number 1. You did ask for that, sorry.
Yeah.
I started April 2020.
Okay.
So you were halfway. I was doing weekly, so I guess you were 6 months in.
Mm-hmm. So you still do weekly?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's crazy.
We've done
It's a lot of talking to people.
A lot of talking. Today I'm doing 5.
I don't even text anybody back.
Yeah.
5 in one day?
5 today?
Yeah, you're the 4th one. I've got another one after you guys.
Wow.
Started at
You're
9
all warmed
a.m.
up. I just woke up.
Wow.
I was just talking to Sam about this before you had to update your Google Chrome. It's 3 p.m. here, 8 a.m. your time. Is it 8 a.m.?
8 a.m. It's 8 a.m. In Los Angeles, yes.
Yeah.
And it's 11 in New York.
And I kind of thought about this. It's like I really think it's funny because I'm like I'm getting older and it's like I used to get up so late all the time that like I get up like I get up at like I'm like I get up like 9 a.m. now. Like I in my head I think I'm getting up early. Like I think it's like such an accomplishment. Like I'm like because I used to DJ like 6 nights a week in New York, right? Yeah. And then like when I DJ'd 6 nights a week, 5 to 6 nights a week in New York, my schedule was just shifted. I would go to bed because I would get off work at 4 a.m. So I would go to bed at like 5:36, and then I would sleep until like 1 or 2 in the afternoon.
Sometimes I would still up. Yeah. Sometimes like you would be texting me like where you'd be like I would have like worked on something and sent it to you and you'd be checking it out at like 4:30 a.m.
And I'm like
still awake because that was my job too. Like there was no kids, you know what I mean? There was no reason up early. So like I would get up at noon too. Be like, oh, okay, cool, you're checking it out. All right, cool. You know.
I don't think I've actually seen you since you've had the second kid, Sam.
Maybe, yeah. She's 3 now.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I haven't seen you in years.
Yeah, I know. It's been too long. Yeah.
What's cooking then?
I see him when he comes to LA. We get Korean barbecue.
Every time.
When that's my daughter.
We used to get ramen, or as Will says, ramen.
Ramen.
And then
yeah, I guess because like I can hear an echo from somebody at this moment in time, and I don't know who that's coming from. I think it's Gav. I think your headphones are too loud.
Here, let me mute myself real quick.
I think it's 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Sam.
It's Sam.
Wow.
Cool. Sam.
You just assumed it was me. You had no evidence for this.
Here.
This is just completely based on Sam's the technical guy.
Exactly.
We did this before, and there was no echo. I just using the webcam mic. So let me see.
It's only little. I don't think anyone's really ever gonna notice. So
I've done a lot of these. This is why I have I still have these old look. It's even missing. Look. There you go. It's missing. It's these are so old, but these are the best things that I use for anything like this. It's
I wish it could the mic could come up a little bit.
Right here.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect.
Look at this.
And
look, and it doesn't even look. Look, it's like a movie prop.
It's like AMSR.
You don't even see I have it.
Is it AMSR? AMS?
ASMR. Yes.
ASMR. Let's see.
What's that about?
Can you let me just turn myself down.
Pleasurable.
How is it now, Will?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we'll just use the headphones so the bleed from the mic won't come through. Now.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And what's great is we could edit this, but we won't.
We're not going to edit this. Yeah. It's kind of the rule when you've done one podcast on here, and then the second one's just always a shit show,
right?
Because
so by 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually mad how long we've known each other.
We met at the first Dirtybird camp out.
2016.
Yes.
No, 2015.
2015. Isn't that
That's
crazy?
crazy.
Yeah.
It's
And then
9 years.
Do you remember? I think we schooled Fisher in Jenga.
No, all I remember was you two both complaining about the tent that you were given.
Oh no! That was a
100 degrees in the morning. Yeah.
That was the second camp out. The first camp out, Sam only stayed 1 or 2 nights the first camp out, and I stayed the whole time. But it was, if you remember, the first camp out was actually quite cold at night. So when you're sleeping in the tent, it was perfect. And I was like, I'd never. And we're coming from New York City. I'd never camped. I didn't go to a camping festival. People, I never even got I didn't have a suntan in 8 years. You know what I mean? So it's then we go and I was I remember then the next year Matt Spurlock came with Sam, and Sam was full time, and I was we just need to stay in the tents. We don't need to get an RV. And the next year it was 20 degrees hotter.
Yeah.
It just became it was the first night we went in there, and we were we stayed up for Christian Martin's drum and bass set, and then the sunrise drum and bass set, and then when we went into the studio, into the tents, within 20 minutes it was 110 degrees.
And
I was like, this is the worst decision we've ever made.
And then 2 hours later they start sound checking.
Yeah, and then it's
we're 100 feet away from the stage.
Yeah, we're right behind the stage. And this guy's checking out the sound at 10 a.m. I'm like, you kidding me?
Oh my god, no.
It's crazy how much life has changed in the last 9 years, though.
Yes, it is.
For all of us, right? We were all starting out then. We weren't starting out at all, but we were in the grand sense of our careers. And
it's funny, yeah. It's the first half of it was just the warm up. It's you don't realize that all that time from say for us it was from I don't know when you started writing music, Will, but for us it was say Gavin and I started working together in 2011, and basically that was 5 years of kind of slowly treading water, and kind of just working on a lot of stuff until Dirtybird happened, and then it kind of really was a major fork in the road. When did you start writing? When did you start producing?
2006.
Mm-hmm.
I think I started.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't really take it serious until 2008.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was DJing more than producing. I was more worrying about DJing.
Mm-hmm.
When was the first year to the beard?
That was late. That was the first year.
When you had the beard at 20 camping.
Yeah, that was it. It was when I signed to Dirtybird, which was 2014.
Okay.
But I remember talking to Barkley on Skype back when Skype was a thing.
I remember Skype being a thing.
And I didn't have a beard. And then 6 months later, we caught up again, and I had a beard.
And he was like, "Who is this?"
He's like, "Who's this dude?" You looked 15 beforehand.
My favorite thing about playing the first camp out was like we never really knew. Like we were like, man, we just got booked randomly on it, and he like. I found out later that I think we got booked because we were on Pets Recordings, and we were American. So they were like, they don't have to pay for us like a visa or like a long, like you know what I mean. And we were just like, we just got booked, and we were on Pets. And I think they were like, yeah, book them. They're American on Pets. All right, book them. And for the longest time, Barclay would always be like, man, you should have been at the first one. And I was like, we were at the first one.
Such a Barclay
He's like,
thing
you
to
should have been there at the first one, man. And I'm like, we were there. He's like, you were. He's like, no. And I'm like, he has no idea we played the first camp out.
Do you miss those days?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
totally.
missed it. I mean, I mean, for anybody, you know, say what you want about whatever. The first few, that first Dirtybird camp out was like, there's just like, I don't think there's ever been repeated that vibe. It was just, it felt very weird. It was like, nobody thought it was going to be, you know, if you watch like all the industry people that come to all these festivals and stuff, no industry people came to that festival. There was no glamping tents taken for like, you know, agents, like the artist tents that were like half full. And then the second year it was like, you couldn't get anything. So it's like, it changed, yeah.
But it changed in a really nice way as well.
Yeah,
I think
in a great way.
I think
the
it
second
didn't.
year was also really good.
Yeah, I think
first and second years were both really good. I honestly, I think the second year was one of my favorites.
Yeah,
it was like there was a lot more people there, but it was still at the same place.
Yes,
and it still felt like real. It wasn't.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It was. They're both. They're all amazing. I'm just saying, like, but the first year there was like this magic that like. You felt like you just discovered a secret that no one else knew yet.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah,
I miss the community so much.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, like if I know like we all stay in touch, or there's a few of us that stay in touch. I think I stay in touch more with you guys, especially I see you, Gav, mostly in LA than I think anybody from the Dirtybird team or from when we kind of were going up. But that was the really special thing about Dirtybird at that time, that it was just we were all trying to do it with each other.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like that anymore in anything.
Well, I was going to say I don't think it like moves somewhere else. It's like it feels like it just feels like it was like kind of like people are trying to use almost, I don't know if that's the blueprint that people are trying to use, but it definitely feels like it feels weird. Like everybody has like a huge plan now or something, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like that magic of that community and like that, like, I don't know. It's like no one thought that was going to, I think what the coolest thing about Dirtybird is like no one, it's like camp out, whether it's whatever. I feel like no one thought it was going to work, and then it did. So there's like this magic to it.
Well, I don't think it was actually about making it work. Right?
Yes.
I think, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Barclay has always wanted to make money. And that's always been a forefront of Barclay and Andy, and that is not a negative comment at all. That is just the facts. But it was just a bunch of misfits that wouldn't fit in anywhere else that fit in together.
I think, yes, having said what you said, but I don't think Barclay thought that was going to be his like cash cow.
No.
Does that make sense? Like, I feel like that's what it was like, kind of like everyone was like, they're like, what are you guys, you know, what is this? And it was just like, and it just kind of felt like the camp out kind of spiraled into the community. Like, I think something that was already growing, but like, yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting time.
It was, it was unique because of the interactions of the certain personalities, you know, and that's a lightning in the bottle, so to speak, right? That's like something that it's way more rare than we think it is. We sort of almost take it for granted when, like, you know, when like you listen to the music that they were releasing at first. It was so quirky and weird and not mainstream at all. Like, you know, stuff maybe almost unplayable, but it was fun. It was like, they're like, this is just cool stuff that we're laying down, and, you know, and it started to catch on, and that's like almost how it catches on. It's like, it can't start out as something that people are already obsessed with. Like, it just takes a lot of time and momentum, and you know, and it becomes this thing. But I always thought that the whole thing was supported by the interactions of the personalities, you know, and people kind of came in and out of it, and it still all worked. Well, sort of before it all fell apart, you know. So
yeah.
So
it's really interesting because I always looked up. I always looked up to Dirtybird before I was part of Dirtybird as a label that actually was the label that actually pushed electronic music to the forefront. That wasn't what everyone else was doing. It was just so, like you said, Sam, it was so weird, and some of it was gimmicky, some of it wasn't, some of it was super serious, but it was just like none of it was actually gave a fuck. And that's the thing I loved about it. And it feels like there was never an agenda to releasing the records, like how it feels like there can be sometimes nowadays. It was never like...
Now I feel like there's only that. That's what I was trying to get at before.
Yeah.
And I think what do you guys think changed in that of like what fucking changed? Not in Dirtybird itself, but in the scene as of how music's written, released, etc., etc.
Let's keep in mind that when Dirtybird started, tech house was like almost non-existent in America.
Yeah.
Right? So the scene didn't exist. The festival scene didn't exist. Right. That was like 2005, right? So like, you know, and as time went on, like the festivals only started getting going, in like the mid 2010s, maybe the early 2010s, like mid 2010s, it really started to like ramp up like that. But like it didn't even exist. It's almost like through like renegade parties that they would throw, it almost created that scene. So it's like foundational and like to the entire like California festival thing. So, you know, in a way, they had nothing to compete against. If anything, it was just like there was Europe, and Europe had like, you know, house music in it and stuff, and it was like, you know, big room progressive and you know, techno and all sorts of stuff. But there wasn't like there was no thing, there was no scene, there was no like festival. Like, now America and house music is like a massive thing. So
I don't think that this is just...
We're trying to do it, you know.
I don't think this is just Europe. I mean, sorry, just America. I feel like in general in the music scene across the board, you know, when we were coming up as, you know, before me and Sam made music, when I was like a young, unknown DJ, I didn't, like, my goal wasn't to go play festivals because DJs weren't playing festivals. So I feel like people don't realize that now. And I feel like now, people are coming up, you know, you ask, like, what's changed? These kids are coming up, and it's not a bad thing. I'm not knocking anybody, but these people are coming up like with the intention of being a festival touring DJ. Like that wasn't even like an option.
Right.
Like playing a festival when we were like, you know, I think we played like, you know, we played some stuff in you know, we played like Lost Village and stuff like that in England, and it was like the first time I remember just being like, man, just all a bunch of DJs on a festival. I'm like, who's going to go to that shit? You know,
it was like only
just because it's like festivals to me were like Red Hot Chili Peppers.
100%. And
you know?
it wasn't a thing in America. It was a thing in the UK where
maybe it was a thing in the UK more, but I feel like it was still like a new thing in the UK. And now I feel like you can have people that come out and they're, you know, you got a 24-year-old DJ now, like they've grown up with DJs. They've grown up for the since they were 14 watching DJs play festivals. On Instagram, on like little videos, and like they're like, I want to be a festival DJ. It's like I didn't even think that was possible when I was coming up, if that makes sense. And I feel like Dirtybird definitely, and just not just Dirtybird, but like just the festival now. And now it's like, look at Coachella. There's 2 stages dedicated to DJs.
Yeah,
I went to Coachella in 2012, and it was like, to me, the worst electronic music I'd ever heard. It was like, it was just nothing but really top like mainstream electronic dance music that like, I was just like, there was no real like interesting DJs playing.
Yeah.
And then the next year they did like the Yuma tent.
And now is what it is.
Now it's like, it is what it is. Yeah. I mean, now you have like DJs playing like, you know, the rock stages.
Yeah. Yeah. And rock stages being taken over.
Yeah,
like the Sahara tents know, like they've added another stage this year. Obviously, by the time this episode comes out, Coachella would have happened, so I apologize for anybody listening to this.
Okay,
but like,
all right, we're scheduling this for down the road, huh? Okay.
Yeah, this is down the road. This is like
Coachella
when is this
was great.
This is actually coming out late. This is coming out 18th of June.
Oh well, okay.
Sorry, guys.
I was gonna say we got to do 2 elections episodes. Like, congratulations.
We're not talking about politics on this one.
Yeah.
Jesus. I guess that's the thing, isn't it? And the way technology has, like, I remember when we make ourselves sound super old, or like but like realistically, 10 years, so much has changed in technology.
Yeah.
And like just how people consume music. Like Spotify, I know Spotify was around when we first started releasing music on Dirtybird, but it wasn't a big thing. It wasn't. We worried about Beatport, and that was it.
Yeah.
Beatport and getting played on Pete Tong. That was all that mattered in our world. And now
we need 3-minute edits of every song.
Yeah.
And if you haven't got a record that doesn't do 1 million streams, you're an absolute failure. Right? And that's how do you guys kind of work through that? Because I want to get into the album stuff eventually, but like, how as artists do you look at the success of a record? How does that affect you guys personally?
I try to insulate myself from all of the public interactions of us entirely, right? As much as I can, because, and I'm serious about this. I know it's funny.
I love that.
Right?
I love that.
Which I can't do because he doesn't.
No, but that's the thing. That's why there's 2 of us, right? So that's why Gavin doesn't have to bang his head against the wall. Like, he doesn't have to feel like the as intensely the direct personal scrutiny, because it'll be like, the track will be full of like a bunch of decisions that I made, and it's just like, if it doesn't work, he doesn't have to like,
I feel, you don't know my banging my head against the wall schedule. First
of course, but you know what I mean. It's like, so what I do is I try to just ignore all that, and we have good management, we have good agents. Obviously, trust Gavin to handle a lot of our sort of the front facing aspect of Walker Royce, a lot of based in 80-20, the spokesman, and yeah, so I try not to let it influence our stuff at all, and when we DJ, we can tell if a track is good or not. That's enough. Yeah. Like, it's like we can tell if over time, a lot of times when the first time we play a track, it kind of falls on deaf ears, and then a few times later it really starts to work. And that's happened with like some of our best tracks, where like the first time we play it, I'm like, maybe that one's not that great. And then after a few people, like after people start to recognize it, it starts to really get a crowd reaction, and then it becomes like something that people expect. And then there's tracks that don't do that, right? And then I know the difference, and then it's like, okay, do more. Like, that one was right, this one was wrong. But when we wrote them, we thought that both of them were great.
Yeah.
Right. We have no idea what's going to work. Yeah.
I think we try. I mean, listen, I definitely get mad when things I think are going to do well don't do well, and I always try to set my expectations low.
Yes.
Because I know that the success, it's not the end all be all. If like a track doesn't do 1 million streams on Spotify, it's like, we have a record label, and we're a small record label, and it's so hard for us to get our songs on playlists, and it's just like the songs, like our songs being on, something, ours do better because I think we're just been around longer, but these new artists that we're putting on our label, it's like, this is where it's painful trying to get. We don't know what to do. We're just a small independent label right now that like doesn't. How do you pitch? We're pitching people to like pitch to these Spotify playlists and stuff, and it's like sometimes something will hit, and but I try to, personally, I think I know. It's like I think we've never really been like, we've had one number one on Beatport, which is great and that's awesome, but I don't think we've ever really been like, we've never been the guys that are just like riding the top 3 of Beatport or with every release. So I know that our music is like, I think the crowd reaction to our music, people asking for our music, and I think we know that we have like a community of our really loyal fans, and so I feel like I try to like see what they think as much as I
think
can.
that's really important, and it's actually really interesting because there's not many artists in the same lane as where you guys sit, and I mean that in the nicest possible way, because you obviously have your Walker and Royce, right? You have your sound, you have a foundation, but I think the thing is you're actually worth, like, your records do really well consistently, and they do really well consistently because your fan base is you have a really strong foundation of a fan base,
right?
And by having a strong foundation of a fan base, you're worth tickets, you're worth festival lineups, and I think it's actually really hard to do that nowadays when it's not purely based on having a hit record. It's purely just consistency for the last 10 years.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, we've been doing it. That's like the one thing we've done. It's like a consistent 10-year thing. But
there's a certain amount of like attrition, you know, just, like never stop. Like you never, we're always constantly working on new music. I mean, like I look at something like Stop Time, which is one of my favorite records that we've done. And I'm like, like for a minute there, like in 2022, 2023, I was struggling. Right.
Yeah.
It was hard, but then found my footing again. Right. And, and I mean, obviously it's a collab and stuff, but there's a lot of us in that record. And, and then I Don't Remember. And then like a couple of these other tracks start coming out. So it's like, okay, it's just never give up. Just keep pushing. It like nothing I've ever done here thinking about it has changed how a track does. So there's no point in me ever looking at how a track does, right? It's that's so far removed. Like what the audience actually thinks of a track is so distant from me in the studio. Usually it's several months, maybe even a year out. And that kind of feedback is too disconnected. I have no idea what people are going to like. So instead, we just try to write as much cool stuff that we can and hope that it does well. And then we work with really good support, like, our managers and, and our agents and stuff like that. We just try to, I think right now we're with a lot of people who get us, which, took some time for us to land in a place where where people kind of understood where we sit. And just on and on.
No, I think you're right. You hit the nail on the head, because I think it takes so many people to have a successful career.
Oh yeah.
And also it takes the people to understand not necessarily the end goal, but the goal to what needs to be achieved, and everybody in that same team has to understand the process of what it takes.
Yeah. And it's like, it's nice that they don't have to worry about, the creation aspect. I almost never get, like, not even from Gav, like I like, or like basically between the two of us, we almost never have pressure on us to do something. Like, it's mostly the other way around. People are just like, hey, send us music. It's not like, I'm too lazy to start more music. It's more like I've got like so many projects open that I can't finish them all.
That's the
and just like trying to because I know one of them's probably gonna hit. Like in 10 tracks, one of them's probably I'm gonna try. I'm gonna be really bored with something and be like, and then try something totally different with this one, and that'll probably be the one that works.
100%.
So yeah.
I guess the question, like, when it comes to, you had big records and then you get the lull of like a year or two without big records. How do you kind of overcome that, in a sense of like, you're still touring, you're still touring tickets, but like you haven't had that record? I'm in that situation now. Last like 2 years, I haven't really had any big records.
Have you been through periods where you didn't have a record and then you did?
Yeah, 100%.
So
we all have, right?
So so now you know that it's possible to beat whatever this thing is. That's the important thing to remember. Like, so now I've, me, whatever, Sam and Gavin, whatever, we've now been through like multiple cycles of like cool stuff happening and then a lull and then a cool stuff happening and then like struggling for direction and then finding it. So like, it's like, okay, this is a mountain, you can climb. So as you're drifting down the mountain, you're like, and you see another one coming up. It's like, we can do this. It's not impossible. I trust myself. Like, and now, I'm 44. I'm about to turn 45, right? Like, so if I'm still able to do this,
tell people how old.
Oh, come on. I think people know. We were literally like talking about like, meeting in like 2003. And it's like literally 20
we were 8. We were on BMX bikes,
exactly, right.
hopping wheelies,
doing flips. Yeah. So no, like, we've been through the cycle a lot. And we sort of know what buttons to press on ourselves to make things happen again. And not to give up, and you just, sort of keep the faith and just, push through it, and it will.
I think definitely in those times, I'm not going to, these are what we try to do, get out of it. And I'm not going to say though that like we don't, we've definitely freaked out like in moments, you know what I mean? Like we've definitely been like, what is happening? Like,
it's been a while though.
We did change. I know, but
that happened
it's like
a few years ago. Yeah.
And we definitely have moments of like doubt, and I think for me, it's like I'm always like, well, what do we need to do to shake things up? And one thing we try not to do is like, I think in those situations, a lot of people will like look to see what else is going on and try to copy that. And that's hard, the one. Yeah. I know it's so easy to do that, and I understand why people do that because we've been tempted to do that. But it's the one thing we try to stay away from doing. I feel like we just try to stay in our lane and know that, like, we've known because we've been through these lulls and then we've come out of them, but we know we can do it again as long as we keep, focused. And and I take a lot of walks. Clear my head, man. Clear my head.
I think it's important though. And do you think it's beneficial having two of you, or do you think it makes it harder?
I think it's very beneficial.
Way more beneficial. Yeah.
I think that we've always had a yin yang kind of thing that we've done, and I feel like one of the things that we started really early, but we were a little bit, as Sam has now let out the bag, a little bit older. Once we started together, even we had been friends for a while, and I feel like one thing that we saw really early is when we first started working together is there was a few other duos around that were doing really well, and I watched literally, like, I'm talking like there's like 10 people being like, this is a new duo, and then like all the time they would break up. All the time these duos would break up. Like I'll call them out. I mean, I don't mean to. It's like Azari and 3. Remember these guys?
Yeah.
They were like amazing, and then it turns out they like hated each other. Like so much. And then if you watch, I'm just like, dude, there's this boiler room where it's like they are doing an Azari and 3 boiler room, and the one guy Azari's playing, and like 30 minutes in, the other guy comes in. They don't even look at each other.
Whoa.
Like they hate each other so much that they don't even look at each other. The other guy plugs in, the other guy just goes like this, and it just walks off the screen. And then the other guy just did the second 30 minutes. And it was like they didn't even know. It was like, and I was just like, so I see like, we saw this kind of stuff happening, and then we just kind of had this like moment where it's like, I was like, Sam is good. Sam's never going to want me to mix down a record, so I'm not going to try to. It's like we just kind of learned these like this thing, and then we've learned this balance. And I've always tried to maintain that balance, and I think it's really been important. And we respect. I respect what he does. We've definitely argued. We've definitely had some arguments.
It's
We've definitely been mad.
It's like a conflict-based team.
We don't get along. We don't agree on everything. It's definitely not
red
something.
Plus blue all the time. Yielding the middle way forward. Yeah. I mean, it's good because like I'm pushed in directions I would never go. Right. I would never have been
exactly,
doing all
and
this stuff.
Same. And I feel like it's good, and I feel like that's what we've learned. And there's this balance, and it's hard to find that balance all the time. But like, I feel like I've kind of become like, I think initially when I first started working, I think I tell people to sometimes I initially just thought I would like help manage Sam, but I knew Sam is like, he's so in his own head about everything. I don't think Sam could do it on his own. And I'm not trying to be a jerk. I just don't. Like he's too in his own head. He wouldn't send his music. And like when we were doing sending stuff to like Dirtybird, like Sam would be like, "Don't send this to anybody," and I'd be like, "Yeah, no, of course not." While I'm like uploading it to like Dropbox, and I'm like emailing it to like all these people. I'm like, "Yo, check this record out." And people are like, "Yo, I'll play this weekend." I'm like, "All right, cool." And Sam's just like, "Don't send it to anyone for 1 month," and I'd be like, "No, we shouldn't do that at all." And then like Monday, I'd be like, got a video of somebody playing it, and he'd be like, "Oh, people like it, okay."
Right. Yeah.
But I feel like we've always struck this balance, and I just feel like that's like I'm definitely Sam's devil in the details, and I'm very much more like I feel like I'm the one like pushing it forward and being like, "All right, let's get it done." But I also know that Sam's gonna do. He's not gonna let me. If something's not good, we know it's not good.
Yes, I'll put the kibosh on it if I really like. If I come back to something next day, I might be like, no, like, yeah. But I feel like
I'll put the kibosh.
You'll already stop it. It's almost like it's
and he knows it because I'm a little bit softer. I'm like, so, and he'll be like, and he'll throw his hands up and he'll be like, what?
I'll be like, all right, I know. It's like we've been working together for so long. I already know if you like something or not. Yeah, and it's almost like I've got like an AI version of Gavin. It's just like he's sitting here now already, and like as I'm writing, I'll be like, guys, this isn't gonna work. He's gonna reject it. So I won't even take that path. Yeah.
Relationships, hey, yeah. It's important. It's important to have, and it's so nice to see. That, like you said, Gav, there's so many duos that have just like split up, and so many people that have
stupidest things.
Yeah,
like hey, I mixed down the last track. You got to mix this track. It's like out of like I'm like this is what you're gonna like. This is the hill you're dying on. You guys have like 5 number ones on Beatport. You're getting booked at like everything in the world, but you're gonna die in this hill, like.
Well, it's usually I from what I can imagine, it's just like any relationship. It's not even that specific thing. It's just a magnitude of everything building up over the years, and no one communicating correctly.
Yes,
there was a key moment, like maybe I think it was probably about 10 years ago, where Gavin and I had like some key differences, or like a sort of like a differences of vision. And how we basically sat down and talked through with our manager, and a lot of it was me being really focused in on this one way that I wanted things to be instead of letting them be just how they were going to be. I wanted to be a certain way, and I'm like okay. And then from then, I mean, I was like almost, maybe it was 2014 or maybe 2015, but like things like got much better from that point on when I let go of what I thought what the conception of what we should be was. Right. Yeah. When I let us be a little bit more silly and a little bit more less serious, more like tongue in cheek, more, like more things, honestly, that's more honest, more true to us.
We had a moment. I feel like when we first started, like, if for the little history lesson of Walker Royce, is like we were doing a lot more deep house and so a little bit more disco kind of stuff. We have some disco edits from back in the day. We have a disco edit we did for like Sam, for like Nervous Records, for like Sam Records disco edit that like I think to this day still gets like they license it out to like defected disco comps and like stuff like that. It's crazy. It's just weird to think like we have like this stuff, and we were on Crosstown Rebels when we were starting off recordings, which was like
the thing,
the label. Yeah, we were on that. One of our biggest tracks Connected, but I feel like things got. There was like a moment where it felt like everything was like going, like getting. It was like going to one. People were playing like 120 BPM stuff. Yeah. Like at peak time in New York City, you're in there and it's like 120 BPM at peak time is. If it's low energy for that, so I feel like we were kind of felt like everyone stopped dancing. It was like a moment where we were like, man, wait a minute. And we just, we made like, we took like this like pivot. We were like, we need to just like make, and we felt like we were also just like kind of flatlining, like nobody cared.
Yeah.
It's like our music would get played by, this just wasn't, nothing was like happening for us. So we just were like, it was Sister, that track Sister, right, Sam?
It's like right around like the stuff with Pets. So Sister was like, I think right before Pets. I mean, I guess we had already done some stuff on Pets. Or like right around that time, but like I want to say it was like right around like what's I
want to get that last coffee.
Wakey Wakey. I want to say like right before Wakey Wakey, or right around that time, like just kind of fully abandoned trying to be part of the big black flowy t-shirt kind of thing.
Yes.
And surrender.
Yeah, when everyone kind of looked like a Jedi Knight in training.
Yes, just abandon that whole thing, get rid of that, and just do whatever. Yeah.
But I also still remember like maybe 2018 with you guys before ITB came out.
That was 2016.
That was 2016.
Was it 2016?
Yeah.
I remember like talking to both of you guys, and you were going through it then as well.
Oh yeah,
and like the
Absolutely.
ups and downs. Like I literally remember talking to you, Gav.
I was walking. After we had already sort of. This is after any personality or artistic conflict. This is way after.
Sure.
This is more like we're not making enough money.
Yeah. That was like
me and my wife like having problems because she's like, "Look, I want to have kids. Like we don't have enough money. I'm gonna have to stop working. What are we gonna do?" Yeah. Like, my biological clock is going like this.
And my biological clock is ticking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've told this story before too, but we were the first Dirtybird campout was going to be one of the last Walker Royce gigs, and it wasn't like a throw your hands up in the air. Like I feel like that's what happens now too with like people today. It's like they set out to do this business plan, and if it doesn't fail, it's like a huge failure, and everyone throws everything in the air and like flips the table over, and it's like we didn't make it. But like for us, it was like you would just kind of felt like we had this iteration. Like we when we first started, I was doing A&R for Nervous Records. And we had this remix, and Damian Lazarus played it like all the time, and just like it was like the third, because we had been working for Nervous. I had signed this record, and we just needed a remix. So that's really how me and Sam started working together. Is I couldn't do the remix on my own, and I literally was like, "Can you help me with this remix?" And that's how Walker Royce was like kind of born. And that was like the third song we had done, Sam. Maybe it was like the second or third song.
Yeah,
we didn't think anything of it, and that got us like on Crosstown, but like the attention Crosstown got us at that time when we just had no idea that this was going to happen. It was crazy. So I felt like it gave us this, because Crosstown at the time was like Maceo Plex.
Again,
our song came out right after that. That was that Fur Coat, You and I, remember that?
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that like we wrote like a Crosstown record while not trying to be on Crosstown. So we didn't look the part at all. We had no management.
Yeah, we had no idea how to capitalize. And then like all of a sudden we're like people were like, "Can you play in London?" And we ended up having this like moment where no one would book us in America at all. We were playing like we played. I remember I played Fabric we played a Fabric one night, flew back the next day, and I played Katy Perry to people in East Village like the next night in like New York City. So it's like, but I don't know where I was going with this, but
now it's but it's really interesting though that you stuck at it, because there's so many people from when you guys first started having success to now that are not even doing it.
Yeah.
And I think it is the case that I think so many people don't realize in life, not just in music industry, that you just have to keep working at it. It's like hard work is literally it.
And it's like, don't be afraid to change things up. We had we have not had to change management in like a long time, luckily. But we did early on. We did, and it was like even then it seemed like it seems so insignificant now looking back on it, but at the time it seemed so significant. So I can understand if you're an artist and you're working with certain people and you feel like it's not getting done, just don't be afraid of just making a change, because sometimes that can have a huge impact. Our booking agency was bought, merged, acquired, whatever, like a few times, and they stuck with us, and we thanking them forever, because we could have easily been axed, at some point.
They tried to axe us.
Yeah,
shout out Latney, our agent. Latney was the only one. Latney literally, I think he when he was on Windish, he was booking Tink, and they like merged with somebody, and then they were like, all right, you got to get rid of these people, and it's like we were on the list, and he was like, no, I really think we should keep these guys. I feel like there's something's gonna happen. And then I think they got rid of like Kink. And I was like, what? I was like, what are you, crazy?
Well, on the other side of that, Latney axed me.
No.
Yeah, he axed me. Like, to be fair, it was completely like I would have axed me as well, because like my agent at the time got fired from AM only.
I think it was. What was it? Paradigm then?
It was I think it was. No, it was Paradigm. You're right.
Because Latney was on Windish. So they must have
Windish moved into and then merged into Paradigm. No, yeah. I think it was Windish, then Paradigm, then Wasserman. I think something like that.
Yes. Yeah. So AM only Windish. So Windish AM only got bought by Windish bought AM only. Then AM only got bought by Paradigm.
Yeah.
Then Paradigm got bought by Wasserman. Anyway, cut long story short, my agent got fired for being a rackhead, which is hard when you're an agent.
Yes.
Like, they are the biggest rackheads.
I know.
And then Latney was kind of forced. I was forced upon Latney. And like, he didn't want to take me, like, but he was told that he had to take me, and that was Latney and Daisy. And then I changed management, and I took on Ryan, who at the time was like, before he was a manager, he was like one of the biggest guys in WME. So like, the amount of shit he was always giving Latney and Daisy on a daily basis. So it was just like, well, it's mostly me giving him shit and then him giving them shit. But it was just like, I get it. But again, you don't give up. And all these things happen.
I think that I always say that, like, if people, like, they're like, what's your advice for somebody young, like, trying to make it? And I'm like, just be stubborn as fuck. Like, stop. Like, and I think it's so hard to, like, be out. It's so hard to look down the line, especially when you're working so hard and you feel like things aren't working right. It's like, you got to get used to failing, I kind of say, because you're not really failing. You think you are, because you're learning.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to be out of your own space in your own head and say, like, to see that this is, like, not going to be the end all be all of what you're doing in this moment. It's like, you know, how did we make it? Like, honest to God, stubbornness. Like we were stubborn. I had everybody in my family, like my mom's being like, what the hell? Sam's saying his wife's like, we're going to have kids. This is my biological thought. And like, I'm like, you know, my mom's like, why are you just like DJing weddings or something? Like, she's like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, and everyone's like, all right, so what are you going to give up? And I was just like, I don't know, you know, and I feel like that's what I think people don't realize is like, the time it takes, you know, they say it takes 10 years to make an overnight success, you know,
100%.
Nobody really comes
100%.
out of nowhere. And I think that once people get big, you know, even John Summit, everyone's like, man, that guy came out of nowhere. And I was like, no, he was making music for like 4 or 5 years before.
Yeah.
People knew him. He was around. He's put in the work.
He was doing his bits.
You know, people think he didn't put in any work. And I'm like, no, that guy's been putting in work.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it isn't about, it's not a competition of how hard somebody's worked. It's not a competition of somebody's worked harder than others. It's just it's a competition between yourself and you.
Right.
That is literally it. Like, I'm never going to be Walker Royce. You're never going to be Will Clarke.
Right.
Why compare yourself to somebody else?
And it's also like things aren't fair. You know, like
life isn't fair.
Yeah, it is not fair. It's like, and so like sometimes shit just works out for some people better than others, and it's like, damn, you know, it's like,
it's the truth.
There's some things we can do to fix that, but not a lot, right? It's like so.
And I think that there's a lot of younger people that kind of like think. I think that's what, you know. You're like, what's changed? I think another part of what's changed now, like from like 10 years ago, and is people. They come at it like there's this blueprint, like there's these steps. As long as I just take these steps and I do these things like so-and-so did or like so-and-so did, they did this, so I'm going to do this, and then it will work for me. And then it's like, it just never works the same way twice. This isn't like a college curriculum. You know what I mean? You don't have to get enough credits to get to where you are. It's like, there's a lot of luck. There's a lot of there's talent. I think the people that really make it for the longevity like have put in both sides of the work. If that makes sense, it's like you got to do the work.
Talking about work, Self-Help album came out in 2017.
End of 2017.
You're now on album number 2, 2024. No big deal.
No big deal.
The way releasing music has changed. The way how you're releasing it has changed massively. What was the reasoning behind deciding to make an album again?
Okay. We were supposed to we had planned on writing an album in 2020. That was like, we went into 2019 at the end. We were like being like, okay, we had already talked to Dirtybird about it. We had already talked. We were like, we're going to do this. And then, we don't need to spend any time on how that year went. So things didn't happen the way they did. And then we kind of thought we were not going to do an album. We didn't really think we were kind of like, man, I don't even see us doing an album. And I feel like with Self-Help, it was kind of a similar thing where Barclay was like, hey, you should do an album. And we were like, we never even thought about doing it. But at the time, he was right, because it felt like we had just hit this, we just kind of hit this ground with this. We kind of had this, something we wanted to say as far as music goes. I feel like me and Sam both were just in this vibe back then where we were like, this is okay, look what is working for us. Started putting a little bit more vocals in our stuff, or something. We were like, hey, let's make it let's try to, I remember having a specific moment saying, before we did Self-Help, being like, all our fans are a bunch of dudes. Let's get some girl fans. And I feel like that's, and that was, we wanted,
it's too masculine.
Yeah. We were like, we felt like it was too house for dudes that like house. And I feel like there was a moment where we were like, okay, we just knew what we wanted to say. And I felt right post lockdown kind of stuff, we didn't really have that until we talked about Stop Time. And we felt like that's why Stop Time, if you notice, it came out on RDA as a single.
Yeah.
And then we put it on the album. We put it on the album because we didn't want to re-release it with the album. It's more like that kind of song kind of hit this note where we felt, both of us were like, oh, okay, we're onto something here we want to say, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's kind of what sparked. And then we were like, you know what? We were supposed to do another album with Dirtybird. Everything has changed at Dirtybird. They're bought by Empire now, so things are a little different. Barclay, we didn't know Barclay was going to step down at that time, but we were like, you know what? Let's get back in there and let's work with you guys. I know that they want another album from us, and that's how it started. And that's we kind of felt like we had with no big deal. It wasn't until we kind of finally finished it that we felt like it came together too. But we feel like it's really come together as an album,
So what is that process from Stop Time to the rest of the records on No Big Deal? From agreeing to actually doing the album, after 2020, all of that goes. You agree to do the album. Stop Time happens in the studio, then it's okay, what's to follow? What's that process like?
So we basically, when we were already starting to play, I don't remember, an earlier version of that.
We had already kind of been working. I know we had already had Barney Bones in the studio. We'd already had Reggie Watts in the studio. So we kind of had, some of that stuff we were sitting on already. We were sitting on the vocals.
Tracks. Yeah, the drum and bass tracks we had already stared back in
we have
2020.
2 drum and bass tracks on the album, and we had, those were kind of beds that we were just messing with in 2020 because we were banging our head against the wall.
Right. It's it's funny because it's just synchronicity that drum and bass is now sort of on is having a moment. But we had started those drum and bass tracks just because we were not writing house music because everything was in lockdown.
Yeah.
So those tracks wound up, just coming across at a good moment. But then, the other things, also Reggie. When did we have Reggie out?
It was a while.
Was it 2021?
We had been 2022. No, it was 2022. But we had been sitting on those vocals for a while, and
we've been sitting on the vocals for a while. We'd wanted to do again. We had done some albumy kind of stuff that was not house music even, and
I think we initially brought him in for some like kind of like more like chill stuff, and then we
just ended up making
making the chill stuff.
Yeah, like just full on
bangers,
full on house tracks with his vocals. And I think it's basically, part of it's just like a collection of music that you write all that's feeling like it all works together. But I mean, but the other Reggie track we had started, I think we had even started like right around I Don't Remember or something. And it just took a while to, like, we wanted it to be something and it just wasn't really fitting. So it took, we literally finished that track like a couple weeks ago. And
which is the nice part of doing your album in parts. People.
Yes, that's the other part.
If you want a little bit more time to work on your album, we'll release it in parts.
Yeah.
When it comes to the parts thing, though, was that a strategical thing?
Yes, and
a bit of both. Yeah,
it's a bit of both. I think we were just trying to shake things up. I mean, I don't think we're the first people to release an album in parts. I don't think we invented this by any means. I don't think that we can Skrillex an album and just drop it on a Friday and everyone's going to listen to it. I think we have a very loyal fan base, but I don't think anyone, maybe that's just not,
We don't have a loyal fan base of 1 billion people.
Right. And then,
we'd like to, but yeah.
Yes.
Right. We're renaming ourselves Wild Stallions.
Anyway, I think that it also goes back to the new age of Spotify and stuff. If you deliver Spotify 12 songs, you can pitch one of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And we didn't want the music to just fall into a void on a one-day thing, and we just trying to shake. I mean, it's not just that. I mean, that was another advantage. It's like it's everything. We're trying to shake things up. Hey, for us to be able to release this in parts, we kind of got the attention of Dirtybird Empire. For not,
but also, we were able to have different.
We were able to take that promo and be like, okay, we're going to we spread it over we started in November, and
yeah.
But also, we were able to have a little bit more of a creative direction that was especially for Mike Justin. I Don't Remember, that they maybe wouldn't the attention on the specific tracks going further than if it would have gone for the whole album, right? Having them come out and it's there was a really cool video we did with I Don't Remember and just and Mike Just too, and there's this weird look with the people dancing and stuff. So we were
able to kind of focus. We were able to, and it was able to say, hey, part 2, we were going to put out Mike Just and I Don't Remember together on part 2, and then we were like, wait a minute, both these songs are gaining some traction, so we ended up splitting those, and they ended up both getting I feel like they both got some more attention, and it's they both did a little bit better. It gave them breathing room,
but they're still part of this album.
And then it's it got people talking on our socials, we put this. Oh, you put this. Why didn't you put this one on there? And then everyone's like, wait, what's that? It's it just kind of created this frenzy that we wanted it to create. It's we're just trying to be a little creative by doing that. But
no, I dig it. Will eventually part 1 and part 2 be put together?
Yeah, we're gonna. I mean, I know this is coming out in June.
By the time this comes out,
you can go right now and buy our sold out vinyl. I think it's going to be sold out now. It's going to be sold out now. It's no. We're putting everything on. We've actually trying to rearrange the track list. We're putting everything. So once the last part comes out, which is in a few weeks from now.
Yeah.
It's out now though, people. But
so it's out now. Yeah.
While we're talking here, it's not out. We're gonna end up doing a vinyl. And we're also doing these. I don't know if you've ever seen us do these things where we do these USB hunts. Where we started last year, and we were doing these kind of edits. So we're actually making some custom USBs that look that you can have the album on there, and then you can. I think there'll be space so you can add more tracks. But that can be your. Hey man, I'm at the Renegade after party. I'm at the after party. I got to. Here's my USB.
Play some Walker Royce.
Yeah.
You agreed to doing an album. You get thought about releasing music, and then Dirtybird gets sold.
I don't think it's been a bad thing.
But I guess I want to know that initial reaction to you guys? Like, how does that feel straight away?
Yeah, like it's like, yeah, you could have called us. Could have told us, you know, like
we didn't know. Yeah, I mean, we could have heard the rumors, but then it was kind of like, I mean, yeah,
you know, because we have this relationship with them, and it's not like we're just some random, like, you know, we're connected to the label in certain ways, so it's like we're not, you know, just like completely, you know, independent somehow. So you know, yeah, it was like, yeah, you should have probably at least told us, and you know, it's like, you know, then now everything's cool, but it's like, yeah, like, yeah, it would have been nice.
Yeah, I think there's also that initial response, and then there's also the hindsight of like, you know what, actually now you have a bigger team around you with Republic,
yeah.
and you're in
probably
a situation.
We have billboards on Sunset for this album.
I'm not complaining about the sale as it stands. I just wish 100%. That you know, it would have been nice to just maybe be included in the conversation somehow. But you know, not that we really have any veto power or anything like that. It's more just like, hey, this is what we're thinking of doing. Heads up. Okay.
And heads I think, you know, we're going to look after you and make sure that you guys...
Exactly.
Empire bought them, but, you know, Darren Delgado is like one of the best label managers to ever live, and he stayed on with them, and it's been great. So we work with him, and I think we're going to even start working RDA with him as well a little bit. We have Mar as our label manager, but Darren's going to be like, you know, doing, you know, so we still feel very family with these guys, and Empire's been great, and it's been I'm not trying to be like an ass kiss here. Like it's been, it's been a great process, and we've gotten like, you know, I think more than what we got for self-help. I mean, self-help, Dirtybird was still a small independent label, and I feel like,
I think
now it's
also
like, that is independent.
I think self-help was a milestone in your career that completely changed everything for you guys in a positive way, and kind of solidified you guys as artists, like true artists, in the sense of, like, I think that's in from an outsider's point of view, and as a friend, like we're mates and stuff, I hope, but like, I think for me, it's like that was the point where it moved heads, and the records on that record, from like, you went from just for example, like from warming up at Dirtybird to being bigger than Barclay on Dirtybird during times of all of our careers, and I think that is so nice to see that the growth of artists have that on a record label where it is all family, but there's also competition in that family to a certain extent, and it's just so nice to see now the label being bought and you guys still doing it and still getting the support that you deserve on that record label.
Absolutely. Yeah.
RDA. I know you started RDA and having success with it. Why did you start it?
I mean, you know, from some very obvious reasons, you know, just so that we would always have a direct output for our own stuff. So that's number one. You know, so that's the most obvious answer. But then, but there's a lot of other reasons. I mean, you know, we've got a lot of friends, and we want to support them. We want to like push them forward. And there's like a certain, you know, we it's like we've got like this sort of family of artists. You know, it's ever growing. But we want to like, you know, feature people that we think are talented.
For me, it's also a curating and artistic thing. It's like, you know, I never really set out to, you know, I'm a now producer with Sam, and we have this successful thing, and I think that it really works well. But I honestly never set out to be like, I never looked at myself as being like a DJ, like anything past a DJ. Like I always thought being the success I have now as a DJ, playing these huge festivals and stuff, like that was a pipe dream to me. I would never have thought that. For me, I always wanted to be, I always had seen myself as working as like an A&R and like working, you know, I worked at Yoshitoshi Records when Deep Dish were both there when I was like 19 as an intern. I always wanted to work in like the label side of things. I wanted to be like a curator kind of way. And, you know, I even worked when me and Sam started working because I was doing A&R. Sam was working at Nervous. We were both friends through a friend of ours. We were both working at Nervous, but I was there doing A&R. I was like doing this, signing music for a sub label that they were doing called Nervous with a U. New Nervous, they called it. So for me, it's like, I think a little bit of that, getting back to like, kind of like, you know, I want to support artists we believe in, and also just like I want to find some cool shit that people like to listen to. It's like what I like to do. So I feel like it was a natural, like I feel like it was like a long time coming for us to start a label just for that, and then it also helps us be able to help people and help our, it's like, we want to start releasing a little bit more music. I think we'll probably, still release on other labels, but we want to release on more stuff on RDA.
If there's something else that we've, learned from Dirtybird that we, anything that we would want to emulate from them, and insofar as our own careers have gone, is that, one of the key differences with Dirtybird is that when we got signed to them, they would actually book us on their shows. And I've said this, a million times in other interviews and stuff like that, and I sound like a broken record, but it's also what we want to do with RDA. It's like, if we're going to throw shows, we're not just going to book like a bunch of headline acts and ourselves. It's like, no, we're going to try to build out the lineups with the people that are on the label, and feature them and just kind of keep this whole thing going. And I think that was a key thing that Dirtybird did that other labels didn't. So
it was the only thing realistically in the grand scheme of things, and that was the only way community was built around the record label.
Well, now I feel like everybody tries to do it, right? I don't know if they try, but I feel like maybe they don't try, but I don't know.
I think for me, it's also like it's all, I don't know. The Dirtybird was special in a way where it would always create a party atmosphere, and it would always be all of the artists at the forefront of, not necessarily financially, but lineup wise, it was a Dirtybird event.
Yes.
And that's how, for me, the brand built its kind of core fan base, and how you could then build a career out of those artists that were on there. But I don't. There's a few labels doing it, but not on the. Everything was Dirtybird, if you know what I mean. Like everything. Yeah,
and then
everything Dirtybird did was Dirtybird.
Then it kind of became not cool all of a sudden or something, right?
Yeah.
And
fashions.
Yeah.
With the album, is there a tour about to be announced, or by the time this is coming out,
we have just kind of?
Is there an album tour?
We did like over the winter. We did, I think, mostly like our album tour, and we definitely got a bunch more shows. We're going to be announcing some RDA stuff. I know. I think by when is this coming out? June.
June.
Okay, yeah. So we just played LA. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Yes, exactly. Just had the weekend.
As of right now, we haven't announced we have some stuff coming out. I think that now that we kind of did the branding of the tour like through the release of the parts, and now it feels like we're gonna just kind of move back to kind of some regular stuff. But we got plenty of shows. We got but I feel like we're done with like the RDA with the new Big Deal branding as much. I don't know. Yeah. Hopefully our billboard's still up on Sunset right now, but
have you got pictures of it? I want to see it.
All right, I'll send you a picture. There's a picture of me standing in front of
it. That's so cool.
We did one, and then it's like funny because like there's supposed to be another one, and it's like right where I eat at this restaurant, and I was always make a joke like I'd be like, one day we're gonna be like, or you go eat at this restaurant, I'd be like, one day we're gonna be on that billboard, and now we're gonna be on it. It's like the next one we're gonna be on. And it's like right by this restaurant that I always eat at, and I'm like,
right by Modern Eats.
No, it's right by Millie's Cafe or something.
Okay.
And I'm like, there's always this one. I'm like, there's always bands on there, and I'm like, we could do that. That could be us, like joking. Yeah. And now it's like it's really not that expensive. So our budget's blown. Our album budget's blown, but
yeah.
If you want to do like Will Clarke Insurance up there, I could get you a deal.
You got
1-800 lawyers.
See, this is our chance. Yeah. This is our chance. We've always wanted to do a commercial because if we're Walker and Royce, I always want to do like one of those like accident lawyer commercials. Like, have you ever been to a club and you don't like the music? Then call Walker and Royce. And like it's just like us in like bad like oversized suits. I think it would be amazing. This is
You should do it.
Yeah.
You should.
When
this
all goes down, I'm gonna be I'm gonna be back in marketing.
It's fine. I'm here for it. Guys, we've just done an hour. Let's wrap this up.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming on. I will see you all very soon, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Got it, man.
Go listen to the album.
Yeah, you gotta see Sam in person. I see this guy.
Mate, it's been so long.
I see this guy all the time.
Every weekend.
He's in my car. I'm driving him around LA. He's like, I'm on his Uber. You know?
Are you gonna move to LA, Sam?
He should.
No.
He should. There's too much crime out here for his daughters, so you know.
You should move back to New York, Gav.
There you go.
No
See,
way.
There you go. Yes, exactly.
You see all this? You see the glow I have here? This is not New York City glow.
Last time
this is a
I
glow
spoke
up.
to you,
Yeah.
last time I spoke to you, you wanted to move to Detroit.
I spend.
He changes his mind every weekend.
We'll
be in Atlanta. We'll be in like Houston. He'll be like, I could live here.
That's what I do. I eye up every place I go, and then I'm like sitting on Zillow. Like I can tell you the rental market in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah, right.
You know? I'm like, well, you can still get a house here for under $600,000. It's got 3 bedrooms. It's only 2,000 square feet. I'm like a traveling real estate agent.
Well, I hopefully will see you all very soon. Keep in touch, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Will. It's nice,
Awesome,
nice to see you, bro. Thank you.
And that's a wrap. Big love to the boys for coming on. Please subscribe. Please share it. Hope you have a great week. Keep safe. Till next time.